Jake Morrison stood in the center of the Great Hall on Nexus Prime. The massive room could hold 10,000 beings, and today it was full. Representatives from 47 different alien species sat in their special seats, each designed for their unique bodies. Some breathed water, others needed thick gas to survive. The crystalline beings sparkled like living diamonds, while the Zephyrians looked like tall gray shadows with too many arms. Jake had been Earth's main voice here for 3 years. Before him, other humans had tried to make friends with these alien races. Some days went well. Other days, like today, felt like walking through a minefield. Lisa Hayes stood beside him, her uniform crisp and her face calm. She had been his second in command since the beginning. Next to her, Dr. Ben Carter held a tablet full of numbers and facts that proved humans were not the monsters some aliens claimed they were. High Chancellor Vexithera rose from her seat. The Zephyrian leader was 12 feet tall and moved like flowing smoke. When she spoke, her voice echoed through the hall in a way that made Jake's teeth hurt. "Today we vote on Resolution 847G, she announced. The Primitive Species Oversight Protocol. Jake felt his hands tighten into fists. He had read this resolution 100 times. It would make humans into children in the eyes of the galaxy. Every human ship would need permission to travel. Every human colony would need alien watchers. Every piece of human technology would be checked and approved by alien experts. The Chancellor continued. Humans are too dangerous to govern themselves. They make war constantly. They advance too fast. They cannot be trusted with the power to travel between stars without proper guidance. One by one, other alien leaders stood to support her words. The Aquatic Federation speaker gurgled through his water mask about human aggression. The Crystalline Hegemony's representative sang in crystal tones about how humans change too quickly to be stable partners. Jake watched the vote counter on the wall. Green lights meant support for the resolution. Red lights meant opposition. There were far too many green lights appearing. Ambassador Morrison, the Chancellor said, you may speak for your species before we finish the count. Jake walked to the speaking platform. He had practiced this speech, but now the words felt different in his mouth. He looked out at the sea of alien faces. Some looked curious, others looked afraid, a few looked disgusted. 12 years ago, Jake began. Humans first reached for the stars and found you waiting. We hope to learn from you. We hope to grow alongside you. We brought you our medicine when the Altarian plague killed millions of your people. We helped end the Sector 7 war with ideas your generals had never considered. We shared our music, our art, our dreams of a better future. He paused, letting his words settle. Now you want to put chains on us because we think differently than you do. Because we solve problems in ways that surprise you. Because we dare to grow and change instead of staying the same for 1,000 years. The Mothkari delegate clicked her approval, but she was one of only a few who supported humanity. The ancient keeper of archives hummed in agreement, but his voice was weak among so many others. We have never attacked a peaceful world, Jake continued. We have never broken our word to any of you. We have never demanded that you change your ways to match ours. All we ask is the same respect in return. The final votes appeared on the wall. The resolution passed by 8 votes. Jake felt the weight of that moment settle on his shoulders. He looked at Lisa, then at Ben. Both nodded slightly. They had discussed this possibility many times during their journey to Nexus Prime. Chancellor Vexithera, Jake said into the sudden silence, I request a brief recess to consult with my government. Granted, she replied, probably thinking the humans would try to find some way to accept their new status as a watched species. Jake led his team to their private rooms. The quantum communication device was already warming up, its blue glow filling the small space. Within minutes, President Kate Williams appeared as a hologram from Earth. How bad is it? She asked. They passed it, Jake replied. We're officially children who need adult supervision. President Williams was quiet for a long moment. Around her, Jake could see other government leaders gathering. The decision had already been made in emergency sessions back on Earth, but everyone had hoped it would not be necessary. Jake, the president said, bring our people home. When they returned to the Great Hall, Jake walked slowly to the speaking platform. The aliens were celebrating quietly, thinking they had solved their human problem. Chancellor Vexithera looked pleased with herself. "Honored delegates," Jake began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space. "For 12 years, humanity has sought to be a good neighbor in this galaxy. We have followed your rules, respected your customs, and tried to earn our place among you." He paused, looking directly at the Chancellor. "But we will not accept being treated as children. We will not submit to being watched and controlled by those who fear what we might become. Every thinking being has the right to choose its own path among the stars." The hall grew very quiet. Even the water breathers stopped their constant bubbling. "Therefore," Jake continued, "the United Earth Federation withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We will seek our own destiny beyond your borders." The silence that followed was so complete that Jake could hear his own heartbeat. Then the noise started. Alien voices rose in shock, anger, and in some cases, what sounded like approval. Chancellor Vexithera stood again, her shadow-like form seeming to grow larger. "You cannot simply leave, Ambassador Morrison. You are bound by treaties and agreements." "Treaties work both ways," Jake replied. "When you voted to treat us as children, you broke the agreement that brought us here. We came as equals. We will not stay as anything less." Jake turned and walked toward the exit. Lisa and Ben followed, along with the rest of the human delegation. Behind them, the aliens argued loudly about what this meant and what they should do. In the docking bay, human ships were already preparing to leave. The crew had been ready for this moment since their arrival. Within an hour, the entire human presence on Nexus Prime was loaded and ready for departure. As Jake's ship lifted off, he looked back at the planet that had been the center of galactic government for 3,000 years. Soon it was just another dot of light among the stars. "Where to, sir?" asked Captain Laura Stone from the pilot's seat. "Home," Jake replied. "And then we find out what humans can really do when no one is telling us we can't." Behind them, Chancellor Vexithera watched the human ships disappear into hyperspace. She turned to her aide with satisfaction. "Good," she said. "Now the real leaders can govern without interference from children." She had no idea what she had just set in motion. Captain Alex Turner pressed his hand against the cool metal wall of the UES horizon and felt the ship's engines humming beneath his palm. 6 months had passed since the humans left Nexus Prime, and everything had changed. His ship was faster than anything the Council had ever built, his crew was happier than they had ever been, and the stars ahead held more promise than the politics they had left behind. "New system coming up, Captain," called Navigator Emma Rodriguez from her station. Her fingers danced across controls that would have been forbidden under Council rules. "Sensors show 3 planets that might support life." "Take us in slow," Alex replied. "Paul, how are the new engines holding up?" Chief Engineer Paul Kim grinned from his position near the engine readouts. "Like a dream, sir. Dr. Foster's quantum tunneling drive is twice as efficient as anything we had before. We could run for months without stopping." Dr. Rachel Stone looked up from her science station, her eyes bright with excitement. "Captain, I'm reading some very interesting energy signatures from the second planet. Nothing artificial, but the patterns are unlike anything in our databases." Alex nodded. This was what freedom felt like. No Council observers watching their every move. No reports to file asking permission to investigate something new. No alien bureaucrats telling them what they could or could not explore. Back in Council space, things were not going nearly as well. Administrator Krilltalk of the Rigel Mining Consortium stared at the broken atmospheric processor on Kepler 442c and wanted to throw something. For 12 years, his mining operation had depended on human-designed equipment to work in the planet's toxic atmosphere. The humans had built machines that could adapt to changing conditions, repair themselves, and work far longer than anything his own people could create. Now those machines were breaking down, and nobody knew how to fix them. "Sir?" His assistant said nervously. "The human technical manuals are incomplete. They reference systems and principles that we never fully understood. Krilltalk's 4 eyes fixed on his assistant with growing anger. Then contact the humans and ask them to send help. Sir, the Council has forbidden all contact with human settlements. Directive 23 Alpha specifically states that any unauthorized communication will result in sanctions. The administrator turned back to the broken machine. His mining operation produced rare metals that dozens of Council worlds needed. Without it, ship construction would slow, technology development would stall, and his own people would face economic disaster. Similar problems were appearing throughout Council space. The Outer Rim Defense Force discovered that their early warning systems were producing more false alarms every day. The systems had been enhanced with human mathematical formulas that nobody else fully understood. Without human experts to maintain them, the formulas were slowly degrading. Admiral Korthan of the Zephyrian Navy read the latest report and felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. Border incidents between Council members were increasing. For the past decade, human mediators had been essential in resolving such conflicts. Humans had a way of seeing problems from angles that other species missed. They could talk to the crystal-based Christek Empire about logical efficiency, while also helping the plant-like Verdani Alliance understand emotional concerns. Now those mediators were gone, and the small conflicts were growing into larger ones. Captain Turner's crew made their most important discovery on a planet they named Haven's Gate. The ruins Dr. Stone found there were clearly ancient, but they were built using mathematical principles that seemed almost familiar. Captain, Dr. Stone said as she studied her readings, this architecture uses geometric patterns that match some of our theoretical physics. It's as if whoever built this understood principles that we're just beginning to explore. How old? Alex asked. Millions of years at least. This civilization was gone long before the Council existed. As they explored deeper into the ruins, they found something even more remarkable. Energy conduits still ran through the ancient structures, powered by technology that defied easy understanding. The conduits seemed to respond to human presence, growing brighter when crew members approached. It's almost like the place recognizes us, Emma whispered as they walked through corridors that lit up with their footsteps. Their exploration was interrupted by a communication from Fleet Command. Admiral Kate Sullivan's face appeared on the main screen, her expression serious but excited. Alex, we've made contact with something called the Nomad Clans. They're a group of species that rejected Council membership centuries ago. Their leader wants to meet with us. 3 days later, Alex found himself face to face with Elder Korith of the Starwalker tribe. The alien looked like a cross between a wolf and an eagle, covered in silver fur that sparkled with its own light. Around him, representatives of a dozen other species watched the proceedings with interest. Your people intrigue us, Elder Korith said in accented but clear English. We have watched the Council for many generations, waiting for someone to stand up to their control. You are the first to choose freedom over comfort. We had no choice, Alex replied honestly. They wanted to treat us like children. Yes, the elder said, his expression showing what might have been amusement. The Council fears change above all things. They have ruled through fear and control for 3,000 years. But you humans, you embrace change, you seek it out. That makes you dangerous to them. Elder Korith gestured to his companions. We offer you something the Council never did. True partnership. We will share our knowledge of this galaxy's hidden places, the systems beyond their maps, the resources they have never found. In return, you share your innovations, your medical advances, your fresh perspective on old problems. The agreement they reached that day would reshape the galaxy. The nomad clans had spent centuries exploring regions that the Council considered too dangerous or too remote to bother with. They knew about star systems rich with rare elements, planets perfect for colonies, and most importantly, they knew about other ruins like the ones on Haven's Gate. Dr. Amy Foster worked around the clock in her laboratory on Luna Station, developing technologies that would have been impossible under Council restrictions. The quantum tunneling drives were just the beginning. Her team was also working on adaptive shielding, faster-than-light communication systems, and manufacturing techniques that could produce complex machinery without massive industrial facilities. On Mars, engineer Roy Barnes perfected defensive systems that could reconfigure themselves against any known weapon. The technology was based on principles found in the ancient ruins, combined with human innovation and nomad clan knowledge of galactic weapon systems. Earth's orbital shipyards, no longer limited by Council manufacturing quotas, worked day and night. New ships rolled out of construction bays at a rate that would have alarmed Council observers if they had been allowed to see it. But perhaps the most important development was happening in the quiet meetings between human diplomats and representatives of other species. Despite Council directives forbidding contact, several member species were secretly reaching out to human colonies. They needed help with problems that only human creativity seemed able to solve. President Kate Williams stood before the Terran Senate in the new capital on Luna and announced something that sent shockwaves through both human space and the galaxy beyond. "My fellow citizens," she began, "we are no longer refugees from Council oppression. We are no longer Earth's children scattered among the stars. Today I am proud to announce the establishment of the Terran Republic, a new form of government designed for humanity's expansion among the stars." She paused, looking at the senators, who represented not just Earth, but 17 thriving human colonies spread across the galaxy's outer regions. "We will build something the galaxy has never seen before, not an empire built on conquest, but a republic built on cooperation, not a hierarchy that fears change, but a democracy that embraces it, not a council that rules through fear, but a union that leads through example." The broadcast reached every human settlement and, through carefully hidden channels, many non-human worlds as well. On dozens of planets, beings who had grown tired of Council control listened to President Williams' words and began to hope for something better. Back on Nexus Prime, Chancellor Vexthera received reports that made her increasingly uncomfortable. The humans were expanding faster than anyone had predicted. They were making alliances with species that the Council had dismissed as unimportant. Most troubling of all, they were developing technologies that surpassed anything in Council space. "How is this possible?" she demanded of her science advisor. "They are a primitive species. They should be struggling without our guidance." "Chancellor," the advisor said carefully, "perhaps we underestimated their capabilities." Vexthara's multiple arms writhed in agitation. "Issue Directive 23 Alpha to all member species. Any unauthorized contact with human settlements will result in immediate Council sanctions. We cannot allow this infection of independence to spread." But it was already too late. The infection had begun, and it was spreading faster than the Council could contain it. In the outer regions of the galaxy, species that had never dared to question Council authority were beginning to ask themselves a simple question. If the humans could choose freedom, why couldn't they? Admiral John Mitchell stood on the bridge of the TRS Liberty, watching the stars streak past as his ship jumped through hyperspace at speeds that would have amazed Council engineers. 2 years had passed since the humans left Nexus Prime, and the galaxy was changing in ways that nobody had expected. "Admiral," called Commander Nicole Brooks from her station, "we're receiving multiple distress signals from Council space. It looks like the Hive Mind Collective has broken containment." John frowned as he studied the tactical display. The Hive Collective had been a minor threat for decades, contained in a small sector by Council forces. But according to these signals, their bioships were spreading rapidly toward inhabited systems. "Communications," John said to Lieutenant Sam Parker. "Patch me through to President Williams." The president's image appeared on the main screen within seconds, thanks to the quantum communication systems that Dr. Helen Gray had developed, using principles found in the ancient ruins. In the background, John could see the bustling activity of the new government complex on Luna. "John," President Williams said, "we're seeing the same reports. The Council's in serious trouble." "Their own fault," Commander Brooks muttered. "They spent so much time worrying about us that they ignored real threats." John nodded, but something about the situation bothered him. The Hive Collective had been stable for generations. Why were they suddenly expanding now? Dr. Gray, the ship's AI coordinator, looked up from her console. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the Hive Collective's movement patterns. This isn't random expansion. They're following specific routes, almost like they're searching for something. Meanwhile, in Council space, Admiral Vorthak led the largest military fleet in galactic history toward the Hive Collective's core systems. 2,000 ships from dozens of different species converged on the threat, confident that overwhelming force would solve the problem. The Admiral was a traditional military leader who believed in simple solutions. The Hive was expanding, so they would destroy it. The approach had worked for 3,000 years of Council rule. But the Hive Collective was not a traditional enemy. Their bioships learned from every attack, adapting their defenses faster than the Council forces could adjust their tactics. What should have been a quick victory turned into a grinding war of attrition. Captain Lisa Chen of the exploration vessel TRS Endeavour was investigating another set of ancient ruins when she made the discovery that changed everything. Yao, with her team of specialists, including archaeologist Dr. Mark Stevens and quantum physicist Dr. Janet Mills, she uncovered what appeared to be a central archive. "Captain," Dr. Stevens called excitedly, "you need to see this. The energy patterns here are completely different from the other ruins. It's like this place is some kind of control center." The archive was vast, its crystalline walls covered with symbols that seemed to shift and change as they watched. But when Dr. Mills touched one of the control surfaces, the entire structure came alive with light and sound. "It's responding to us," she whispered in amazement. "The technology recognizes human brain patterns." What they found in the archive's records shook their understanding of galactic history. The galaxy had experienced this cycle before, not once, but many times. Every few million years, a species emerged with the capability to guide galactic civilization to new heights, only to be suppressed by the established powers of their time. 12 species. Dr. Stevens read from the translated records. 12 different attempts to break the cycle of stagnation and fear. All of them destroyed or driven away by coalitions of older civilizations who were afraid of change. Dr. Mills discovered something even more disturbing. The method was always the same: political isolation, economic pressure, technological restrictions. The older species would claim the new ones were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too aggressive to be trusted. "Just like what the Council tried to do to us," Captain Chen said quietly. But there was more. The archive revealed that the ancient ruins scattered across the galaxy were not random relics. They formed a vast network designed to activate when a new guide species began to expand. The network would provide them with the tools they needed to fulfill their destiny and break the cycle of oppression. "The ruins are coming online all across human space," Dr. Gray reported to Admiral Mitchell. "Manufacturing facilities, defense systems, and databases full of scientific knowledge. It's like the galaxy itself is choosing to help us." John stared at the data streaming across his screens. Ancient shipyards were powering up in remote systems. Defensive platforms that had been dormant for millions of years were activating around human colonies. Most importantly, vast libraries of accumulated knowledge from 12 previous guide species were becoming accessible to human scientists. "Admiral," Commander Brooks said, her voice tense, "we're detecting Council ships massing near our borders. Intelligence suggests they're planning a preemptive strike." John was not surprised. Chancellor Vex Thera was facing mounting pressure from the Hive Collective crisis and needed someone to blame. The humans, with their rapid expansion and growing influence, made perfect scapegoats. "Sir," Lieutenant Parker added, "we're also receiving communications from dozens of species within Council space. They're asking for our help with the Hive situation." John found himself facing the same choice that had confronted every guide species before them. They could use their newly acquired ancient technologies to build impregnable defenses and wait for the storm to pass. Or they could do something that no species had ever done before. "Get me President Williams again," John ordered. When the president appeared on screen, John could see the weight of decision in her eyes. She had been receiving the same reports, the same pleas for help from species across the galaxy. "They want us to hide," she said without preamble. "Every guide species before us chose to defend themselves and hope for the best. That's why they all failed." "What are you suggesting?" John asked, though he suspected he already knew. "The Council fleet is massing to attack us while their own people face extinction from the Hive Collective. We could sit here and wait for them to come, Or we could show the galaxy what real leadership looks like. Commander Brooks leaned forward. You're talking about intervening in a war that isn't ours, to help people who want to destroy us. I'm talking about doing what's right, President Williams replied. The archive records show that every previous guide species failed because they were forced into defensive positions. We have an opportunity to break that cycle. Dr. Gray spoke up from her station. The ancient network is fully online now. We have access to technologies and knowledge that surpass anything in the current galaxy. We could end the hive crisis in ways the Council never imagined. John thought about the choice before them. They could use their advantages to protect themselves, or they could use them to protect everyone. One path led to survival, but also to repeating the failures of the past. The other path led to something entirely new. Mr. Parker, John said, open a channel to all human ships and colonies. When the communication network was ready, John addressed not just his own people, but broadcast openly to every inhabited system in the galaxy. The message would reach Council worlds, nomad clan territories, and independent systems alike. People of the galaxy, he began. The Hive Collective threatens all life in this region of space. The Council's traditional approach has failed, and countless beings face extinction while their leaders plan attacks on those who chose freedom over submission. He paused, knowing that his next words would reshape galactic politics forever. The Terran Republic will not stand by while innocents die. We will engage the Hive Collective using strategies and technologies that the Council never imagined. We invite all free peoples to join us, not as subjects or followers, but as equals in building a better future for everyone. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Ships from independent systems began moving toward human space. Even some Council member species quietly sent representatives to offer assistance. The ancient network completed its activation sequence, and for the first time in millions of years, the galaxy prepared to witness the rise of a true guide species. But in Council space, Chancellor Vexithera made a decision that would doom her regime and change the course of galactic history. If she could not stop the humans through military force, she would use the Council's most carefully guarded secret. Hidden in the deepest vaults of Nexus Prime lay weapons that violated every treaty the Council had ever signed. Planet killers, capable of destroying entire worlds. She had always told herself they were for emergencies only. Now she convinced herself that the emergency had arrived. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine whether the galaxy would finally break free from its cycle of fear and stagnation, or sink deeper into the darkness of authoritarian control. The choice, ultimately, would belong to humanity. Admiral Kevin Walsh guided the combined Terran Nomad fleet through hyperspace toward the Hive Collective's core systems. His flagship, the TRS Defiance, cut through space faster than any ship the galaxy had ever seen. Behind him, vessels from 30 different species flew in perfect formation, united by something the Council had never achieved: genuine cooperation. Admiral, called Commander Lisa Grant from her station, Artemis has completed her analysis of the Hive Collective's behavior patterns. Artemis was the revolutionary AI developed by Dr. Claire Adams using principles found in the ancient archives. Unlike traditional computer systems, Artemis could think in ways that bridged the gap between individual and collective consciousness. What did she find? Kevin asked. Major Dan Cooper, the fleet's intelligence officer, brought up a holographic display showing the Hive's movement patterns. The collective isn't actually attacking randomly. According to Artemis, they're trying to communicate, but their method of communication is so alien that other species interpret it as aggression. Dr. Susan Bell, the fleet's xenobiologist, nodded in agreement. I've been studying their bioships, the patterns of their movements, the way they approach other vessels, even their weapons fire. It all follows linguistic structures, not military ones. Kevin stared at the data. You're saying they're not trying to conquer anyone. They're trying to talk. That's exactly what we're saying, Dr. Adams said from her position at the AI coordination station. The problem is that their form of consciousness is so different from individual-based thinking that no one has been able to understand them. Meanwhile, the Council's massive fleet engaged the Hive Collective in the largest space battle in galactic history. Admiral Vorthak watched in growing horror as his ships fell one by one to biovessels that learned from every attack. Every tactic his forces used was quickly countered. Every weapon they fired was soon neutralized by adaptive defenses. "Admiral," his aide reported, "we've lost 300 ships in the last hour. The enemy appears to be studying our attack patterns and developing countermeasures in real time." Vorthak clenched his fists. "Then we hit them harder. Concentrate all fire on their command vessels." But there were no command vessels in the traditional sense. The Hive Collective operated as a true group mind, with every ship contributing to their collective intelligence. Destroying individual vessels only made the remaining ones smarter and more adaptable. Back in the human fleet, Commander Grant volunteered for the most dangerous mission in galactic history. Using technology adapted from the ancient network, human scientists had developed a communication protocol that could interface directly with hive mind consciousness. "Lisa," Kevin said quietly, "we don't know what this will do to your mind. The interface could damage you permanently." "Someone has to try," she replied, settling into the specially designed chair surrounded by quantum neural interfaces. "If we're right about this, we could end the war without firing a shot." Dr. Adams monitored the connection as Commander Grant's consciousness merged temporarily with the vast, collective intelligence of the Hive. What happened next changed galactic history forever. The Hive Collective had been trying to join galactic civilization for centuries. Their distributed consciousness was so different from individual-based thinking that no other species could understand their attempts at communication. Every time they approached other vessels or planets, they tried to establish the kind of deep, mental connection that was natural to them. Other species saw invasion. The Hive saw friendship. "They're lonely," Commander Grant whispered through the neural link. "They've been alone for so long, trying to find others who could understand them. When they saw the galaxy full of thinking beings, they thought they had finally found family." Working with nomad clan consciousness specialists and using translation protocols found in the ancient archives, the humans facilitated the first true conversation between the Hive Collective and individual consciousness species. The breakthrough was monitored by hidden observers throughout the galaxy, including several council species who began to question everything their leaders had told them about the crisis. The conversation was unlike anything in recorded history. The Hive shared memories of billions of years of isolation, of watching other species develop and hoping to make contact. They showed their attempts to communicate, their confusion at being attacked, their growing desperation as conflict escalated. Return. The combined fleet explained individual consciousness, the fear that collective minds inspired in singular beings, and the tragic misunderstanding that had led to so much death. "We meant no harm," the Hive communicated through the quantum neural link. "We only wish to join the family of thinking beings." "You can," Commander Grant replied through the connection. "But we need to find ways for individual minds and collective minds to communicate safely." While Admiral Walsh's fleet achieved this diplomatic miracle, events in Council space reached a breaking point. Chancellor Vexithara faced rebellion from her own military commanders who questioned the wisdom of attacking humans, while the Hive crisis continued. In desperation, she made a choice that would destroy her regime and shock the galaxy. She activated one of the Council's planet-killer weapons, not against human settlements but against a major population center of the Grethkar species. One of the Council members who had begun questioning Zephyrian leadership. The weapon destroyed an entire city in seconds, killing 15 million innocent beings. Within hours, Council propaganda networks blamed the attack on human terrorism, claiming that the humans had somehow acquired planet-killer technology and used it against Council civilians. The lie might have worked against a traditional enemy, but the humans had advantages that no previous guide species possessed. The ancient network included surveillance systems that had recorded the attack from multiple angles. More importantly, the network's quantum communication systems allowed humans to broadcast the truth instantaneously across the galaxy. Captain Rick Davis of the intelligence vessel TRS Shadow worked with communications expert Lieutenant Maria Santos to disseminate the evidence. High-resolution recordings showed Council ships launching the weapon. Quantum signatures proved it came from Nexus Prime's secret arsenal. Communication intercepts revealed Chancellor Vexithera's direct orders. The revelation that the Council leadership had deliberately murdered billions of their own citizens to justify a war sent shockwaves through every inhabited system. On dozens of worlds, populations rose up against their governments. Council member species voted to withdraw from the alliance that had ruled them for 3,000 years. On Earth, President Williams convened an emergency session of the Terran Senate. The chamber was packed with representatives from human colonies, nomad clan allies, and even some Council refugees who had fled to human space. Senator Robert Taylor argued for caution. If we act too aggressively, we'll be no better than the Council. Senator Amy Wilson disagreed. We can't sit back while innocent people suffer under that regime. President Williams chose a third path that would define humanity's role in galactic affairs for generations to come. Instead of attacking Council military assets or even defending human space, she announced Operation Starlight. We will not conquer the Council, she told the assembled representatives. We will not impose our will on unwilling populations. Instead, we offer something that has never existed in this galaxy: genuine choice. Operation Starlight was unlike any military campaign in galactic history. Human fleets appeared simultaneously in dozens of systems, but not to attack. They established protective zones around any world that declared independence from Council authority. They provided safe passage for refugee populations. They offered aid and protection to species seeking to govern themselves. The response was overwhelming. The Grethkar species voted unanimously to abandon the Council and request Terran protection. The silicon-based Christek Empire, tired of organic biased policies, negotiated a mutual defense pact with humanity. Species that had been suppressed for centuries suddenly found themselves free to make their own choices. Dr. Adams, working with teams across human space, unveiled humanity's greatest achievement, the Consensus Protocol. Using technologies from the ancient network combined with human innovations in democratic theory, they created a communication and decision-making system that allowed any number of species to participate in governance while maintaining their unique cultural perspectives. Unlike the Council's hierarchical structure where powerful species dominated weaker ones, the Consensus Protocol ensured that every voice was heard. Decisions were made based on the merit of ideas rather than the political influence of those who proposed them. The system was tested successfully with the Free Worlds Alliance, which now included representatives from over 50 different species. Crystal beings worked alongside plant-based intelligences. Individual minds cooperated with collective consciousness entities. Water breathers collaborated with gas breathers and energy beings. It worked because it was based on respect rather than fear, cooperation rather than control. As news of the Consensus Protocol spread, even more Council members abandoned the old system. Chancellor Vexithara found herself ruling an empire that was collapsing around her. Half the Council members had withdrawn or declared neutrality. Her Milita Admiral Sarah Kim stood on the bridge of the TRS Sentinel as planet-killer weapons approached Earth like harbingers of doom. Around her, the greatest collection of defensive technology in galactic history, prepared for humanity's final test. But instead of simply protecting themselves, the humans did something that shocked every observer in the galaxy. Open channels to all ships and stations, Sarah ordered. Full broadcast on all frequencies. Communications Officer Lieutenant Steve Rogers nodded. All channels open, Admiral. Attention all vessels and installations, Sarah announced. We are about to demonstrate our defensive procedures against the incoming planet-killer weapons. All tactical data is being transmitted in real time to any who wish to observe and learn. General Tom Anderson, coordinating Earth's defenses from Luna Base, stared at his screens in amazement. The humans were literally showing the galaxy exactly how they planned to stop the planet killers. More than that, they were extending their defensive screens to protect Council worlds as well as human colonies. Admiral, Minerva reported, the AI's voice calm despite the approaching danger. Defensive screens are extending to cover 47 inhabited systems within range. Council, planets, independent worlds, and human colonies will all receive equal protection. The message was clear to every being watching. Even facing extinction, humanity chose to protect rather than destroy. The planet-killer weapons struck Earth's defenses like cosmic hammers hitting an unbreakable shield. But the ancient network's technology did something that no one expected. Instead of simply absorbing the weapon's energy, the defensive systems redirected it into the network's power grid, actually strengthening the defenses with each attack. "Incredible," whispered Captain Lisa Parker from her engineering station aboard the orbital defense platform. "The attacks are making us stronger." But the real demonstration was happening in space around the planet. Captain Steve Rogers coordinated with representatives from 63 different species in real time, making tactical decisions through the consensus protocol rather than military hierarchy. The galaxy watched in amazement as dozens of species worked together seamlessly, sharing resources and information without the political maneuvering that had characterized Council operations for millennia. "Crystal ship formations, adjust position by Mark 7, came a voice from a Christek Empire vessel. "Nomad Clan scouts, extend sensor range to grid section 12, responded a Starwalker commander. "Hive collective units, integrate defensive. Patterns with individual consciousness vessels," communicated the new Hive representative through the quantum neural link. Dr. Jennifer Cole, working from Luna Base, made the breakthrough that changed everything. Her analysis of the ancient network revealed the truth about the previous guide species. They had not disappeared or been destroyed. They had evolved beyond physical existence, uploading their consciousness into the quantum foundations of the network itself. "They've been waiting," she said to President Williams through the quantum communication link. 12 civilizations, millions of years of accumulated wisdom, all waiting for a species capable of breaking the cycle of suppression and truly uniting the galaxy. As the ancient consciousness interfaced directly with human leadership, President Williams and her team received something unprecedented: the complete history and wisdom of 12 advanced civilizations, freely shared without conditions or restrictions. The knowledge transfer included technologies that could make humanity godlike, but also the wisdom to use such power responsibly. Faster-than-light travel that could cross galaxies in hours. Manufacturing, systems that could build planets, medical knowledge that could extend life indefinitely, weapons that could destroy stars, and the understanding that true power came not from the ability to force others to obey, but from the wisdom to help them become their best selves. In Council space, Chancellor Vexthara's regime collapsed as her own military commanders arrested her for crimes against sentient life. The evidence of her planet-killer attacks was undeniable, and even her most loyal supporters could not defend the murder of billions of innocent beings. Admiral Vornash, who had opposed the planet-killer attacks from the beginning, led the New Zephyrian government in a complete reversal of policy. Within hours, they requested amnesty and offered to join the growing Free Worlds Alliance. "We were wrong," Admiral Vornash broadcast to the galaxy. "We let fear guide our actions instead of wisdom. We chose control over cooperation. The humans have shown us a better way." The transformation was swift and total. Species after species abandoned the hierarchical council model and adopted the consensus protocol. The Aquatic Federation dissolved their authoritarian government and established elected representatives. The crystalline hegemony restructured their society to include voices from every crystal formation. Even species that had never been part of the council emerged from hidden systems to join the new galactic democracy. The galaxy experienced its first truly representative government, where decisions were made based on collective wisdom rather than the political power of individual species. Dr. Claire Adams and her team established the Galactic Academy on New Geneva, humanity's first world built specifically for interspecies cooperation. The Academy became the center of learning for the galaxy, where young beings from hundreds of species learned not just science and technology, but the principles of cooperation, consensus building, and mutual respect that defined the new galactic order. Students who breathed water studied alongside those who required thick gas atmospheres. Crystal beings shared mathematics with plant-based intelligences. Collective consciousness entities learned individual perspectives, while singular minds explored group thinking. Admiral Kevin Walsh, now serving as the first elected coordinator of the Free Worlds Alliance, oversaw the transformation of military forces from instruments of conquest to tools of exploration and protection. The ancient network provided the infrastructure for unprecedented expansion. As species worked together to explore new galaxies and make contact with civilizations beyond their current reach. "We're not just governing a single galaxy anymore," he reported to the Alliance Congress. "The network extends to other galaxies, other clusters of civilizations waiting for contact. Our mandate has become infinite." Captain Rick Davis led the first intergalactic expedition, his ship powered by technologies that made the journey to Andromeda possible in weeks rather than millennia. What they found there amazed everyone. The Andromeda Collective, a confederation of species that had been watching the Milky Way galaxy for millions of years. "We have observed your cycle of rise and fall," communicated Elder Nexus of the Andromeda Collective through quantum neural link. 12 times we watched guide species emerge, only to be suppressed by fear and jealousy. You are the first to break the cycle and create true unity. The Andromeda Collective shared knowledge of other galaxies, other civilizations that had achieved various levels of unity. Some had succeeded in breaking their own cycles. Others were still trapped in patterns of conflict and control. The universe, it seemed, was full of species waiting for examples of what cooperation could achieve. 5 years after the establishment of the Free Worlds Alliance, the galaxy had become unrecognizable. Trade flowed freely between systems that had been enemies for centuries. Scientific discoveries accelerated as different species shared their unique perspectives on universal problems. Art and culture exploded in a renaissance of creativity as beings learned to appreciate perspectives completely unlike their own. The transformation culminated in the first Galactic Congress of the Free Worlds Alliance, held in the same chambers, where the old council had once ruled through fear. But now there were no privileged seats, no hierarchical arrangements. Representatives from over 400 species participated based on their expertise and interest in specific issues, with the consensus protocol ensuring that every voice contributed to the collective wisdom. President Williams, now serving as Earth's representative rather than humanity's leader, delivered an address that encompassed the journey from Earth's first tentative steps into space to their role in creating galactic democracy. "We did not set out to lead the galaxy," she said, to the assembled beings. "We simply chose to be free. In that choice, we discovered that freedom is not something you take for yourself, but something you help others achieve. We did not conquer the stars. We learned to share them." The ancient network, now fully active and growing, extended its reach toward distant galaxies where new species awaited their chance to join the galactic community. The cycle of suppression was broken, replaced by an endless cycle of growth, discovery, and mutual support. Dr. Ben Carter, now serving as Director of Xenological Studies, published his comprehensive analysis, "The Guide Species Phenomenon: How Humanity Succeeded Where Others Failed." His research revealed that humanity's success came not from superior technology or military might, but from their fundamental approach to other species. "Previous guide species tried to lead through superiority," he wrote. "Humans succeeded by treating every species as equals with unique contributions to offer. They didn't try to change others to match themselves. They learned to celebrate and benefit from difference." The Galaxy Canteen.